Thousands of protesters rallied in support of the European Union across Poland on Sunday. Organizers said the demonstrations were held in more than 100 Polish towns and cities and several cities abroad. The demonstrators were angry at the controversial court ruling issued on Thursday that raised concerns the country might eventually leave the EU. But unlike the United Kingdom, whose people voted to leave the EU in the 2016 Brexit referendum, opinion polls show a majority of Poles want their country to remain in the bloc. The demonstrations were called by former EU chief Donald Tusk, now the leader of the country's main opposition grouping, Civic Platform. Speaking to a large crowd in Warsaw, he called on people to defend European Poland. Poland's constitutional tribunal ruled on Thursday that some provisions of the EU treaties and court rulings are incompatible with the Polish constitution. The ruling essentially rejects the primacy of EU law over national legislation.
Essentially, it's a constitutional contest as to whose law is supreme, the EU's law or Poland's law. And actually, the policy in both cases is actually unclear. Poland's constitution is supreme, except that it must conform with EU policy regarding judicial independence and other such issues. And the Kaczynski government in Poland is determined to crack down on judicial independence. So there seems to be a collision taking place.
The move was the latest event escalating the tensions in the ties between Brussels and Warsaw since the right-wing Law and Justice Party came to power in Poland in 2015. After winning the presidential and parliamentary elections in 2015, the Law and Justice Party started implementing changes to Poland's judicial system. The country's new president, Andrzej Duda, replaced several constitutional judge appointees by the previous government with those supported by the ruling party. The move, the European Union argues, breached Polish laws. The ruling PiS then moved to establish a disciplinary chamber to penalize judges who otherwise enjoy broad protection from political or parliamentary influence. It argued that the chamber was needed to hold judges accountable and purge the judiciary from the remnants of the communist-era judges who are still serving in the country. The move was rejected by the EU as incompatible with European law. In December 2020, EU members unanimously agreed to link respect for the rule of law to the access of EU funds. Among the 27 member states, Hungary and Poland agreed to the measure only if they were allowed to challenge it at the Luxembourg-based court. The rule of law mechanism is putting tens of billions of dollars in European aid to Poland at risk, as the bloc contends that the country no longer has an independent judiciary system.
But the problem is that in the case of the federation, it's not really clear who's in charge, who's really dominant, and so there's a contest of wills. And if you ask whether the EU is overextended, the answer is probably yes. I mean, the EU has lost Britain, obviously. Italy is heading off in an increasingly dangerous and fascistic direction, which is very threatening to the EU's core mission. And countries like Poland, Hungary, and the Baltics are in open revolt against the EU. And it's not clear that the EU can make its authority felt in those areas.
Poland is arguing that the European laws are infringing on its sovereignty, something that the Polish authorities aren't expected to take lightly. The issue is, how far does Brussels want to push things, and whether that would lead to the Union losing another member?